Hang on, we on? Everybody ready? Okay, okay. All right, everyone, let's flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is the November 2023 meeting of the Smithfield Township Planning Commission. This is our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. All right, we have a full complement of board members today. Look, you got everybody? Okay. All right, minutes for review. Chatting with beforehand, the October minutes are not quite ready, so I'll make a motion that we move approval of the minutes of the October 12 meeting to December, and that way we can do December and November at the same time. Seconded by Dave Strunk, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any public comments on the agenda itself before we move on to the new business? All right. New business, 6A, that's the Franklin Hill Manor Land Development Plan that's been tabled repeatedly. Well, their request for extension runs out sometime, what, January or
I
December?
think December, so we're gonna need another one if in fact
If they want.
they want to continue with this project.
Okay,
So,
well, then that'll be up to them.
we'll make that request.
Okay, that'll be up to
So
them
we don't
then.
have a deed approval, but it's approved.
Now, which one do you want to tackle first? Shall we tackle the Magic Cauldron Verizon Wireless Land Development, since we have the review on that one?
You have the review, the
Yeah.
applicant is here with counsel.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
I would
Step right up, please.
Get
Thank
that
you.
done so that they're not spending too much time and money on it.
Okay, thank you, because I know that we've seen this a couple
Yeah,
of
you've seen it
times
before,
over the
like,
years.
a couple times, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and if you remember, the planning commission recommended approval of this plan back in 2020. And then the supervisors ultimately approved it in 2020 as well. There's been a modification of the plan since then. It's been a slight relocation of the lease compound, which has obviously resulted in the new plan submission to the commission.
okay. John, we turn it over to you. You've taken a look, you've given us your November 2nd review engineering letter. What do you see as issues with this that differ from what we saw a couple of years ago? Anything?
Well, there's just one thing that I think we should discuss.
Yeah, let's mute them. Let's mute them at least, because we're getting some.
Quickly, I'll summarize the changes.
Joe.
I'll summarize the changes on the plan. You can correct me if I missed anything, but the gated area around the monopole tower has been reduced in size from 50 by 50 to 45 by 50. 75 by 75 foot lease area remains. The proposed 12-foot wide access driveway is extended southwest 500 feet more or less on the new plan, along with utility poles.
This one.
Previously, 2 infiltration trenches were being used to manage stormwater management. They've added 3 additional trenches. They've got more for that.
Okay.
Propane tank and generator are proposed on the new plan, before they were using a diesel generator. And the limit of disturbance has been increased, a little bit. I think a lot of the comments remain technical, to address some of our previous comments, or as a result of some stormwater changes that I just mentioned are on this plan. I'd like to draw your attention to comments for your consideration, number 5, number 6, and number, I believe it's 31. They're all interrelated. Briefly, the ordinance requires a loading area and a parking area. It was provided previously. They have now combined it into one single area. The loading area and the parking area are one and the same. Previously, they received a waiver from having to pave the parking area.
So it could just be crushed down?
Yes, but the current the zoning requirements for the loading area states that it must be paved. We believe that there's a conflict if you have the loading area and the parking the same. I think the response is gonna be that I don't think there's gonna need two at the same time, but I don't understand how you can have something offloading at the same time without somebody there, so.
Yeah, generally, when these are visitors, it's maybe once a month by a guy in an SUV or a pickup truck. So that being said, obviously, if the commission or the township would want the loading area in addition to the parking area, we could certainly add that. That should not be a problem, to add that back to the plan.
Yeah, why do we want it? I know it's in our zoning ordinance. You're hearing from me who hates parking.
Well, but somebody does have to go there once in a while and stop and get out of their vehicle. And they may have to, bring equipment or bring new parts or something, so they've got to have a place to go when all that happens.
But, and there's a space now, but it's gonna be just gravel. Not a problem.
Yeah, the parking can be gravel, the loading area is supposed to be paved. That's the zoning requirement, I don't know whether.
We can't waive that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's easier for them to go get a variance. Or
Yes,
to pave
that's
it.
the only way to do it.
Well, yeah, they have two choices, pave it or get a variance.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Parking area, Joe?
Now they got a waiver on that,
Okay, but we said paving is required, I missed it.
on the loading area.
You don't think you need the parking and the loading dock as separate spaces?
I feel like there's no issue. We will match the previous plan with that issue that showed that the parking area was previously, and we will pave the area we combined to comply. That's not really a huge issue. It's just
Yeah, but it seems silly to do it if you don't need it.
Yeah, most circumstances, it's never necessary, because it's really, like I said, a guy in an SUV or a pickup truck, so he really doesn't have a lot of equipment most of the time. So we try to avoid impervious as much as possible, these developments, that's why you see what you see, but, obviously we'll provide whatever the township desires.
I don't have a strong opinion, I just brought it up for you guys to kick this around.
I would suggest you get a request a variance for the paving.
Yeah, just requested it. That could be really easy.
Well, there's two issues. Do they need both a separate loading area and a separate parking area? The ordinance would suggest that they do. And if they do provide a separate loading area and a separate parking area, they don't have to pave the parking area. They got relief from that, but unless they get relief from the zoning hearing board through a variance, they would still have to pave the parking area. I mean, the loading area, I spoke. Unless someone decides that they only need one, and then they have to decide whether they're gonna call it a parking area or a loading area.
And so wait, if they call it a parking area, they don't have to pave it.
That's correct.
Does it require a loading area? Or just
believe,
that you pave a loading area if you have a loading
No,
area?
there's no if.
let's see,
It's a yes.
Let me see what 5 is. I believe it's a yes.
It's nothing, frankly, that's not anything we can do here because we do not have the power to waive zoning. We can only deal with subdivision and land development waiver requests. If you want to do, you obviously have two choices, either go back to the way it was, or you request
the variance.
the variance for the zoning hearing board, at which point it is up to them whether you need both gravel or one gravel, one paved, and both.
Or one combined, right?
Yeah. But that's not anything we can do, frankly, or weigh in on. It's not even in our bailiwick here.
other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot here unless the applicant thinks they need some guidance on anything, but I believe most of it's technical.
Most of it's very straightforward and technical. I just wanted to address one point related to comment number 16D. We provided a copy of Verizon's FCC license, and this site is not indicated on Verizon's FCC license, which is very common. So I just wanted to explain to the commission why that is.
Okay.
So the license that we provided, Verizon's license, is for Monroe County, Lackawanna County, and Luzerne County. So that license does not contain all of Verizon Wireless's sites on it. What it does is these FCC licenses kind of give an outline of the licensed area. So you may find one on the the border between Luzerne County and Columbia County. Same thing, you may find one in the boundary between Lackawanna County and Wayne County. You may find one with Monroe County, you know, and to the south. So, that's why it's not listed. The Verizon's, licenses don't specify every single site. It's kind of more of just like a geographic boundary. So I just wanted to clarify for the commission why that is.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, the comments, you know, I don't think we have a problem with any of them. Alec, I don't know if you have any issues with,
No, well, we're gonna have to write that some of the stormwater, comments, but there should be no issue with that, and following that, we can address the steep slopes once we have our design.
yeah. Yeah, the comment letter is very straightforward. We'll be able to.
Yeah, it is
comply.
pretty,
Yeah.
Is there anything, Ron, that we need?
Well, it's, the time has been extended to December 13.
Okay,
I thought that was the time that it would have run anyway, but if we're just extended to December 13, let's assume that is accurate, and it is, because I see the form in front of me. Will the supervisors, if you vote to approve this with or without conditions, will they act on it on the 22nd? I doubt it, because there is no meeting on the 22nd, because it's the day before Thanksgiving. So they'll be acting upon it then in the first meeting in December, which I might think is maybe the 8th or something, so they will still be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the day before our meeting now.
Is that what the date is, The 5th or the 8th or whatever?
Supervisors meet the 13th.
Supervisors meeting is the 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be that exact day. But we should be okay.
It's under the wire.
Yeah. In fact, what I emailed Julie a copy of the extension request, but I have the original email. So I'll give you the original signed copy, just so you have it.
Okay. You have a copy?
I do, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So we should be okay. It's a matter of whether or not, based upon what you see here, whether there is any reason to not approve it, or at least give conditional approval based upon compliance with the township engineer review letter of November 2. I don't know if there's any other conditions.
yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. The only thing is, do we want to? Well, I'll do it this way. I will make, well, before we get there, what is this tower approval agreement, removal agreement?
Oh, so the ordinance requires that we submit an agreement, binding agreement with the township to remove the tower once it becomes operational.
Yeah, but we're not in music.
Yeah, in fact, that's gotta be modified. That's basically a form. But what I thought is, I said that for Ron's review and approval, once he approves the document, we can get it signed and submitted. But that's specifically noted in the letter, yeah.
All right, well, then I'll make the motion that we approve the Verizon Wireless Magic Cauldron revised final land development plan on the following two conditions: that the applicant comply with the comments in the November 2nd, 2023 letter from LVL Engineering Group, and also with the second condition that if the applicant desires to request a change from the zoning ordinance with regard to parking and loading, that the applicant seek a variance through the Smithfield Township zoning hearing board. Those would be the two things that I was doing.
I second that.
Any discussion? Everybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening. Thanks. Hope everybody has a nice Thanksgiving.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks again. Have a great night. Thank you.
All right.
You
Have
too.
a safe trip home.
All right. The next two matters are discussion matters, really. As we have a few things coming in. Let's first, why don't we take the noise and nuisance ordinance matter first, since we have materials on that, and then we'll discuss the second one. All right. What is it that, I was not here last month, that's the one that I missed. What, and Julia sent stuff around, Luke, obviously.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's on, oh, there she is. Okay, she's
Yep,
on.
I'm here.
Hello,
Hi.
hello. What is it that you wanted to, what is
I
it that
think
you?
that was discussed last month, Mr. Chair, if I may interrupt, and of course, Julie
Yeah, I don't know.
is here, and
is that the feeling was that there needed to be some substance to the noise ordinance and not just say, well, it's something that would be too noisy for a reasonable person or things like that. The discussion was it has to be some type of decibel reading and that it has to be determined from the property line and that it has to have someone who is certified in operating a legitimate, or I don't know if there's such a thing as a certified decibel reader. You could do it on your telephone, but I don't think that would work, in the court of
No,
law.
but you need it, you can get a device that's calibrated and say.
Right, so calibrated,
Yeah.
so that's where it was pretty much at. I don't think there was a whole lot of discussion about the nitty gritty of the ordinance, and maybe that should be discussed, but that's really where we left off last month, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if the notes say anything different. The meeting notes from last month. That's right, you said they weren't ready.
Just so we're looking at the same thing, the one with the draft changes is the most recent, correct?
The red line one.
Red line?
Right, Julia? Sorry, I'm looking over there like.
Yes, yep,
The red line?
that's correct. In the top right corner, it should say 2023.11.01 draft ordinance, and that is the most current version right now.
Not the red
I
line.
don't have that.
Oh, that is the red line.
No, it's the red line. Yeah.
Oh, well, then she's giving us one without track change.
Yeah,
Oh, this is not track changes, but this has track changes?
yeah, this is just, yeah, that's right. Did anybody discuss last month, enforcement on this? Because I mean, honestly, that'd be my major thing is that what. Enforcement is always a problem.
If I could jump in, there is some definitions in here on, a noise control officer. It's on page 3. And it says the noise control officer means an employee or consultant of the township which is certified to perform noise ordinance enforcement activities specified within this ordinance. Et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
And I think we also have.
So who does
an email.
Whoever the township designated.
okay.
We also have an email
hiring
from,
somebody?
All right.
Or training some. Or it means or. Enforcement officer.
I'd like to say something because I.
Hang on, I promise you, I will not, well, I'm not letting this pass without public
Okay,
comment,
all
trust
right.
me. I will, I know. Look, the way I see, look, cause I wasn't here, but I'll tell you this, the way I see this, I view this in the same way that I view parking. You can go one of two, you can go in two different directions. All right, if you're gonna, in this instance, can you write a noise ordinance that has charts and decibel limits and all the rest, and all the rest of it? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes it easy for people to comply with and then say, but I've complied. It's like 2 spaces per apartment or whatever else, even though you may never use that or may that 53 decibels in one spot may be a lot more annoying than 50 decibels in another spot. Just because of the noise. So that is both the rub and the flexibility of a nuisance style ordinance versus a technical style.
And it only becomes an issue if someone complains.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that's the rub. And if you have a technical style ordinance, you can always have somebody say, but I'm only making this much noise, and that's all your ordinance says, even though to the person that is living next to it, it is highly annoying.
The way it was originally written, there was no decibels and it was just the 2 people in the neighborhood felt that it was annoying, they could complain and it would be called for action. At least now we have something that's measurable and it becomes the foundation for what's good and what's.
Measurable levels can be both a crutch and a cudgel. That's what I'm saying. That's the only thing that I'm saying. I'm taking it from my experience and.
So what's the alternative?
No, it has to be sort of one or the other.
what's the other?
No, it either has to be a nuisance style one where you do not have decibel limits set, and then you in essence litigate every time somebody comes.
Well, we're trying to avoid that. We're
You
trying to
can't
make-
avoid that. You can't, everybody likes to avoid that, but sometimes you just can't. And it is
less
this,
likelihood of by having decibel levels of less likelihood of litigation?
no, sure, because even if the 57 decibel use is next to your house. And the person that is making that noise, you don't like it, because the buzz of whatever they're doing is always buzzing all the time.
Yeah.
At 57 or 56 or 55 decibels, and you are absolutely annoyed by it all the time. But the person creating the noise says it's 56 decibels. Tough. If you have a nuisance style ordinance, you will end up ultimately having a court fight over whether or not it is a nuisance publicly, the noise that is generated that is caused your complaint. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's
Is there anywhere in this ordinance that says, for example, any noise proximal to neighbor residence or domicile in excess of 65 decibels, 56 decibels, let's say, shall be considered a public nuisance? No?
no,
Well, that would be one of the ways that you would get to a point where maybe you wouldn't have to litigate all the time.
Well, that's in essence what it says. It gives you decibel limits at the property line.
Yeah,
Can I interrupt to say there's a white Subaru outside with the lights on, whoever that might be.
there's what?
White
oh, okay. Christine, go turn your car.
One of those Subaru owners. Yeah.
I have a black Subaru.
Yeah, another Subaru. Well,
And another issue, Scott, that came up was people operating a business where they make their livelihood. That would create noise that might conflict with this,
Well, the only thing I think that is in here,
I mean, there's a list of exemptions.
yeah, the exemption, I mean, agricultural uses, I mean, yeah, at some point, someone's gotta run a tractor, but even that, there's not too many of those, remaining in our township. The direction if you wanna go is entirely up to the supervisors, I mean, it's not us, they asked for a few comments, that is the one thing, when I read through this, the materials that Julia said to us, that stood out to me. Thanks for sending them out, Julia, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
A lot of things.
Yeah,
and okay.
go ahead.
No, I've only had some experience with the wording shall be considered a public nuisance. There are several places in the code where that appears. And I would think that in a nuisance ordinance, you would see that wording and you would see it applied, particularly in a noise ordinance. You would see it applied to unacceptable levels of noise.
Where is that in the ordinance?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Because if you have.
I can jump in.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you check section 10-311 under
Okay.
notice required, section A, it says, violation of any provision of this ordinance shall be cause for a violation notice to be issued to the violator by the enforcement officer. So that is where we have it in this ordinance that would be a problem and someone could be issued a violation for that.
Right, but right. But it doesn't use the term shall be considered a public nuisance. Which is a lot of, some Pennsylvania law uses that exact wording. And I'm just wondering why we can't use it here. 311 notice, when notice is required. So that's when some officer of the township, as I'm reading this, would provide the notice of violation to the offender, am I right?
Correct. Yes.
Julia, am I
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
That's what
Sorry.
I get it, okay.
I couldn't hear you nodding.
Look,
By the way, there is not only noise, control officer, there's also noise control investigators in this. So it doesn't necessarily, those are not employees, they can be sort of deputized. This looks like, that's on page 6, looks like there's slightly less things they can do, but they can still investigate and pursue enforcement activities. Julia, can you?
Yeah, and so the basic difference between the two is that the noise control officer has the training and requirements available to take the actual readings with a calibrated decibel machine, while the other position is more on the plainly audible side. This is actually one of the big questions that I had for you gentlemen, because when Dave and I originally went through this, we decided to include the noise control officer and not the other title. But then as I was going through and doing a deep dive of the ordinance, we didn't take out a couple of spots where the other title was mentioned. And I was curious if you wanted to wrap everything up into one title, or if we did want to have a noise control officer and then a secondary officer underneath that that could handle the noise problems with vehicles and whatnot.
I would say put it all in one would be my recommendation. I mean, that's what I would. That's what I would recommend. And please, don't, I hope nobody misunderstands. I view this as a completely worthy thing. I am not saying not to have, I am acutely aware not only of the problem that I presume most of you are here for. But even in general, even construction noise and I understand, certainly, the need, the need for this. I'm just saying, there's two different directions we can go here.
I have a question about the decibel issue versus how it is not applied to music. Because you go through all the things here and you spell out the decibels that are allowed in various situations. And then you get to the area where you talk about music. And if it's clearly audible at 25 feet or clearly audible at 50 feet, that could be subjective depending upon how good or bad your hearing is. But it's also just a different criteria. And why the change? Why wouldn't decibels apply to music?
Where is that in the?
It's in the
Section 10-309, items C and D. And part of the reason, Mitch, that is highlighted, and my comment says, echoing earlier comments, consistent restriction times might be more helpful. But by doing it in this way with the plainly audible, quote unquote, would allow the noise investigator to go out and cite these sorts of things instead of just having the noise control officer. If we just want to go with the noise control officer, we can keep the motor vehicle amplification, in decibel levels. But I think it echoes a really good comment that Scott had mentioned earlier. In the middle of a day, 65 decibels isn't that big of a deal, but if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and someone is driving by with a vehicle, not that we could necessarily catch them, but it makes quite a big difference if it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's just for public, personal.
Yeah, that's not like an establishment.
Right.
Oh, okay, it's under motor vehicle.
No, it's under personal, yeah.
Yeah. And it's on public, roads and right of ways, right?
If you look at section 10-307, there's a section that has music with a question mark, so that was what I thought was going to be something that would have to be decided. So how you want to handle it.
Yes, and to that note as well, why there is music with a question mark under 307 is in the original draft that Robert had put together. There was a restriction on music from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. that was not included in this one, where we see different things, power tools and whatnot. And I didn't know if that was something the commission wanted to consider.
What we
How about
don't,
fireworks? We got impulse noise, I noticed.
So the unfortunate effect of fireworks is that that we are preempted by the state in fireworks enforcement. So, the state law, I want to say it's Act 46, but that number sounds incorrect to me, demonstrates when people are allowed to, shoot off fireworks, the times that they are allowed to do it. I believe it's technically up until 10 o'clock, except on, the major holidays where everyone uses fireworks where it's extended.
Does that act allow for any other enforcement besides the state, or do they have to enforce it as well? You know?
That is a question for Ron. I know that the state police have the opportunity to do that. I don't know if our zoning officer could enforce state law.
Yeah, I know that a couple townships and boroughs, which I represent, have enacted firework ordinances, whether or not they will stand attack, who knows, but they've been around for a while. And they're basing it on the fact that the statute says that as long as you meet certain criteria, you can regulate it. So you can't prohibit it, but you can at least regulate it based upon the statute, and that's really where Julie is coming from.
So the statute said you can't do it after 10 PM, then you could enforce something if it was happening after 10 PM.
I think so. Now, again, I haven't looked at that statute in a while because the last time we did a fireworks ordinance, maybe 3-4 years ago. But again, Julie is right with respect to the preemption by the state as to being able to prohibit it, but you can regulate. At least as far as I know, the last time I looked, who knows, so the.
Yeah, so
Laws like their underwear.
I got my numbers backwards. It is Act 74 of 2022, and Section 1106 states that except for the authority exercised under subsection A, no municipality shall restrict or regulate fireworks in the following ways: specific days that they're allowed to be used and times that they're allowed to be used. Or excuse me, no municipality shall restrict uses on the following days. But if you look up Act 74 of 2022, you will be able to find the whole act available. And if it would help, I can put this up on the website as well.
Anybody mind if I go get a few comments here from the audience? Because I know they're here for that. All right. I know many of you are here just for this particular discussion, okay? This is your opportunity, if you wish to make a few remarks on the types of ordinances that we are discussing. I know you wanted to say something first, Matt. I don't know your name, Matt, so if you stand up and at least introduce yourself so we can hear it on because we're on.
Lynn Shores.
Okay.
And, well, I did have a question about the music because my big problem is with the amplified music that's coming through my house. Basically from the saloon, sometimes from Rainbow. And I know what the previous ordinance said that it was going to be allowed from 10 AM to 10 PM, right, Robert? Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah. And, well, is that what is going to go into this ordinance? Do we think?
I don't know what's.
Because the music just had a question now with the revision.
Well, at this point, what we're doing is the purpose of our planning commission is to sort of flesh these kind of things out before it becomes, the legislation through the supervisors. So,
Oh, okay.
so this is like, and by the way, this is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. Somebody else's, somebody's noise may or may not meet a decibel threshold, but it sure is annoying.
Yeah,
Have you ever contacted the liquor control
Yeah.
board?
yes,
Have they come out?
yes.
How many times have they come out?
Well, I don't know how many times they've come out, but I know that Rainbow has been cited in the past. But I know this year also the saloon has been cited.
So my understanding is they need to be cited 3 times, which is annoying, but after that, they don't automatically get their liquor license renewed.
Well, the first time is a warning, so I don't know, that
There's,
doesn't.
it's like 3 after the third one is, which it used to be 5, by the way.
Well,
they
they
updated
changed
it.
that law with Act 67.
Right.
Okay, So I'm unclear, is it 3 or 4 that they need
So I
before?
believe, I don't know, there has to be 3 citations until,
Okay,
my understanding is, and they don't,
3
once
citations,
you've got 3 citations on your
What
liquor
she's
license.
asking is the warning county one of the 3. Or is
Not
it 3 after?
not
the-
usually.
Yeah,
I guess it's not.
3 after the warning.
But I wonder if that means, is it 3 or 4 citations in one season, or is it cumulative?
Probably in a year.
Oh, all right, see, I really don't know. I have been in contact with them. And I know they do go out, but I don't know exactly when they're going. And then sometimes, you know, the band takes a break, maybe they're there during the break and,
Yeah.
but
They're
it's,
supposed to go every time there's a complaint, every time.
okay.
So complain again,
Oh, all right.
because they have more teeth than,
Well, now the outdoor amplified music is basically over because of the season.
Oh.
Usually, you know, in the nicer
Who's
weather.
they, the state cop?
PLCB, yeah,
It's actually the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement.
but it's state police that have
It
to
is
do
the
it.
state police,
Yeah,
not the liquor control, even though they call it that, it's actually not regulated under the liquor control board. It's an arm of the state police.
yeah, that's right. But at any rate, and at my house now, this could be problematic, but because you're talking about the decibel levels, and I'm probably not gonna get up to 65. It has
That's
to
at their
be-
property line though,
Yeah, but
outside,
my property line.
it should be their property line.
Oh, I thought it was at the complainant.
No,
No,
Oh.
that was
it's
an
at-
original discussion, but I think.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I didn't hear both property lines. It's several, like the Dave.
I mean,
You have-
anything I've ever seen has always been the property line of.
Adjacent property line?
of the noise making.
It's on your property line.
It's up there, so it would be both there.
It could be, but it's,
It could be.
this is written, so it's the property line of the people making the noise.
Right.
Oh, is that how it is? Oh.
The way
okay.
this is written.
All right,
Yes.
okay, well, that's better.
And getting back to your question on music, music has a question mark next to it, but that's a holdover from the original
Right,
track.
yeah,
That'll be taken out.
okay,
The specific noise, there is no specific noise for music, it's just any noise. They could be beating a hammer on an anvil, they could be, doing whatever, it's,
well, wait, are you saying that music is not going to have its own definition? It's gonna be within the general noise? Wait,
we're
I
not
don't
gonna have a
understand.
definition for music, we're just going to, if any noise that's generated by any
Mhm.
commercial establishment has to be below a certain decibel threshold.
Okay, well, because I thought there, well, I was a
No.
little confused, because I thought there was going to be that, time limit,
It is, it's all covered,
okay,
it's all covered in the table that they can't go over a certain decibel level,
all right,
different times of the day.
okay. All right, well,
That's
then,
just extra restrictions,
Mhm.
that section. Is that right, Julia? 10.307
That's
is
correct.
extra stuff.
Mhm.
You'll notice, for example, like in section A there, it restricts power tools between 8 and 8, where the regular tables are between 10 and 7. So it shortens the time frame a little bit.
So paragraph B under 307 really can come out.
He's looking.
Right, Julia?
Sorry, Dave, you said paragraph B
Yes.
should B as in Bravo?
You're under
D and Delta.
10-307.
Well, that was one of the questions that I had. In the prior ordinance, there was restrictions between 10 and 10. And if you guys are okay keeping music between the 10 and 7, that's fine. If you would like to keep it back and push it to the original 10 and 10, we should put an additional restriction under item Delta for that.
Is that different than what's in the tables for the decibel level?
The tables restrict decibel levels on weeknights from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. and on weekend nights from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. So the original 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. Restriction from the last ordinance would need its own portion to shorten that time frame that people are allowed to operate music. Just like it does with the power tools and the equipment for commercial purposes in the portions above the portions above the delta.
Okay.
If you want.
I'm sorry. Personal or commercial vehicular music amplification. Meaning
That's right of ways.
the kid with the bass turned all the way up in his car.
Yeah, that's under.
Yeah.
You're not gonna catch it. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Debbie Talbot. The thing with the ordinance for us is more the dirt bikes riding over on Craig Meadow.
Yep.
They're too close to residential. I moved up in there in the woods to get away from noise and stuff, because that's how I've always lived. I've always lived here in Pennsylvania, so I've come from a couple different townships. And I understand what you mean about the decimal. Checking that, which, like you said, is gonna become more complicated with that, because like her noise may be different than this lady's noise, like you were saying. So is it okay for them, but it's not okay for these people, that type of thing. I think, what you were saying about having some kind of a noise ordinance, now, I mean, those dirt bikes could have different mufflers on, they just choose not to put them on, okay? That would cut down some of the noise, but not all the noise, okay? Because we're like right above them, right behind them. My neighbor here, they're right next to her. I mean, we all live
Joe's up
back.
there too. I see Joe Riccobono's.
Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
all live up there, it's all quiet. The neighbors know each other, nobody bothers each other until this started. Now it's
The night
invading everybody because the noise, of course, travels up and we're all above it. And it's just, I don't have a problem finding a place for these kids to ride and stuff. I have my own four-wheeler. But I respect my neighbors. I go slow past their house and I don't do it 24/7.
Oh.
Okay? That's called respect for your other neighbors and people that own property around you. This gentleman came in, just took over, is not following anything that we know of that he's supposed to be doing. He's been very belligerent and ignorant to my neighbors and telling us that, we can't watch them when it's her property. They're like right next to her property, so how can you not see them? Okay? But that noise is too close to residential area. So there's gotta be either, they need to move up further towards Thunder Quarry where there are hardly any houses. I don't know why they didn't buy that piece of property up there. It would have been further away from us. Okay, and it wouldn't be like right next to our houses. Well, we have to listen to this 24/7. First it started out on just the weekends. Now it's like every day through the week and the weekends. The weekend is the loudest. So in the summertime, you can't even sit outside and enjoy if you have family or friends out for a picnic or whatever. That's how loud it is. I mean, any and all of yous are invited to come over when they're still running and come up to our houses and sit outside and listen to what we listen to every single day now.
Debbie, I apologize, can I have your last name again?
Pallada,
Paladin?
Tallada.
Thank you.
So that's the problem as far as the noise ordinance and stuff with us. Okay, then he's got people camping in there on the weekends. I mean, do they have porta potties and stuff for people to be camping in there?
Well, we're not, I understand that, but that's, well,
Okay,
that's
I'm
not,
sorry.
I believe, by the way, this situation is exactly why I was talking about the difference between a nuisance style and a decibel table style. You don't know, it might only be at the property line, it might only be 65
No,
decibels.
it's not. They've done it. It's 95.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it does
So it's
matter.
95, big deal.
Now,
What I'm
some people
saying is,
like
but when it
the
stops, it
property
stops,
right
and then it
where
starts up
mine is.
again, and it starts up again. But if you don't have a nuisance component. If you don't have a nuisance.
I guess I'm confused by your differentiation because I would read this ordinance that what they're doing is a complete violation. They would get cited with it, the way it's written right now. I'm just saying it's correct.
No, I'm not saying it's not.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is, if, let's say it gets down below 65. 65 may still be horrible in her driveway.
I don't think it will be.
Okay, I'm just saying that.
Because decibels, by the way, is logarithmic.
Yeah, I know
So
logarithmic.
every 10, it doubles in volume.
Mhm.
So there's a pretty big difference. I mean, right now in this room, we're probably at a 60.
I mean, I'm just
there's a
saying,
reason why there's a decibel level, because you're gonna have, a business that's doing normal business work, and it's gonna be coming in at 55. I mean, I don't know how would you enforce it if you didn't have a level that is acceptable to make noise, because everyone makes noise, we're making noise right now, right? You need to have something you can enforce,
I
right?
mean, a power drill, somebody mowing their lawn, that's normal stuff we do every day, okay?
Yeah.
All of our neighbors do it.
That's exempt.
Okay,
And
but
that's-
we also
that's
know
in the
how to
exemptions,
respect our
yeah,
neighbors and don't start making noise outside till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we all stop by 10 o'clock at night. Okay, maybe our dogs bark a little bit, but all the dogs.
I mean, I
in the
think
neighborhood-
everyone in this room is in agreement. I think the question is, how do we put that into words so that it is legally
Right.
binding?
No, that's
so we
true.
can-
Yeah.
There's a distinction, can I say something?
yeah, go ahead.
What they're doing is illegal, our position is that it's illegal, so this ordinance would already be something that they can enforce on that, but ideally, it is our position that it's illegal, therefore it wouldn't exist.
Right.
So the type of nuisance you're suggesting, not
No, you
necessarily
wouldn't even
relevant
need
to
this
the
ordinance, is what you're saying, that what they're doing is.
However,
illegal.
we
Right,
only
so
this
it's illegal,
ordinance.
right, what I'm saying is it's illegal on zoning, but like, we're still worried about the power grid, because that's what's supposed to be there, not a bike track.
If it's
That's all I'm
illegal, why are
saying.
they
I'm sorry, the antecedent of the
We
code,
cited them already.
it's.
They're still doing it.
They
Yeah,
have, they
they-
appealed.
What is it that's illegal?
Remember,
running a business.
The difference
between this and what Jacob was talking about with the zoning ordinances. Under the zoning ordinance, we can cite somebody, we have to give them 30 days to appeal, they can appeal to the zoning hearing board.
Yeah.
In this case, they realized that if they just appealed on the last day, they'd only be eligible to go to the zoning hearing board in December, so they have another month. With this ordinance, which will not be under the zoning ordinance, it will be a
Okay.
standalone ordinance, we can cite them from the first day, we can cite them every day.
Okay,
For noise.
and then there's also a monetary penalty in this as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that.
Hang on one second, because this lady has been dying to say something. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, so you know why I'm here.
Yeah.
Behind the house that's right, they're 10 foot.
Yeah, please tell your name. Yeah, but you,
My
please,
name is Tammy Booth.
thank you.
Okay, my question is, look at page 11 and look at E. Because I know them and they are, I want to make sure that this is exact, that they're not going to use recreational, even if you shut them down. They're so arrogant that they'll say they're using it for their kids and their friends and they'll still keep running it.
By the way, our red line version highlights that phrase needs to be reworded.
Yes.
Yeah, we already, we have it
Yeah, we
highlighted.
got
Yeah,
that.
it needs to be fixed, you're right.
All right.
'Cause they could get
so
away with
that
fucking
is
doing
my main thing,
Okay.
is that little piece, cause I know that they are gonna push it. Even if it gets closed down.
I wanted to ask that to you, Julia, it's related to that, because it says permitted outdoor activity, and then you also have a similar language around public athletic field events that are permitted. But it's not clear to me what permitted means. Does permitted means I have a permit to run a bar, so I'm permitted, or does it have?
And that's why it's highlighted. Dave and I kind of ran this back and forth between us, and we thought, oh, if we do a permitted outdoor activity, they'd need to get a permit for it, so we could regulate through that. But by the definition of permitted as well, you could say, I own a bar in this ED zone, which is a principal permitted use, so my actions are permitted according to that. Yeah, I was very worried about this definition because the intent of this one is to not have like FC Pocono and ESYA get penalized for having a game on a field, but we need to make sure that we take that definition so those uses or football games in Stroudsburg, for example, you can hear them all the time from 7 to about 10 o'clock when they're done. And we wouldn't want to shut down children's sports and activities that are planned and available on our fields. But we need to make sure that we regulate it in such a way that we can say, yes, this soccer game is allowed, but these people with a commercial business are not allowed to go absolutely bonkers. My big concern with this one is I think we need to have something here because generally football games run from, they normally start at like 7 on Friday nights, and they are 2.5 to 3 hours, so you're brushing up against that 10 p.m. Deadline is set forth in the ordinance.
Julia, this is Ron talking. On page 5, you have recreation highlighted in red and nothing after it. Does that mean that we need to get a definition for that?
That definition and a few others are highlighted in a similar fashion, and it is done so because depending on how we reword item E, we may need to create a definition for what recreation is, or that might be able to come out of the ordinance entirely.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
You're really wrong. What I was thinking, look, it's English language. It's permitted, meaning you have a permit, or it's permitted, meaning not otherwise prohibited elsewhere.
Right, exactly.
That's really probably the distinction of the phrase, the not otherwise allowed elsewhere kind of phrase versus permitted. And, oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Bob Markey. I have a construction business in Smithfield Township, and I'm just wondering how this affects our everyday work, during the day, as far as decimals.
Are you in a commercial zone, Bob?
We are in non-conforming in residential. And there before your zoning is ever been in.
I don't know.
But he's not the problem. We're-
No,
No,
I'm not talking about.
Oh, and I agree with you, you need something.
Do you do work at your site, at your home, or do you do it, or do you go?
We do repair work in our shop,
Yeah,
in the evenings on our trucks, and our trucks come in 5,
Yeah,
6
sure.
o'clock at night. And we do work on them at night, but other guys than that, our jobs are during the day,
and but they're offsite anyway.
what's that?
Are they offsite? I don't know what you do, I'm sorry.
I'm excavating, paving,
Okay, so you're not repaving your house every time. You're going elsewhere to do things.
yeah, but we do work in residential areas as well.
Well, yeah, sure.
So how does that work if I was to come to somebody's house? For instance, the rollers, our rollers for vibratory rollers, the brand new roller says 120 decimals right on the side of the drum. So if we run that during the day during work hours, is that gonna affect us?
Are you running it outside?
Yes.
Right, it's a piece of equipment you're doing for a one-shot job. It's no different than the roofing crew that starts at 5:30 in the morning on set in July, so they can get off the roof by 9, and then whacking it with the air hammers. It's a temporary thing and it's done and you're out.
And.
That's how
I'm not saying you shouldn't have, no, I'm just questioning how that was.
Well, I'm not gonna tell you how enforcement on yours would go, but I can't see it happening, but it should be addressed in there, because you're really talking about a temporary construction situation.
Is that under the exceptions, Julia? It looked like it might, no?
No, I didn't see it.
It's on page 10.
Right.
Actually, it starts on page 9.
Oh,
So it is in here. If under section under 10-307, restricted uses, power tools, landscaping, home maintenance tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it will blah 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 blah. But the last sentence is what's important. It says, at all other times, the limits set forth in the tables do not apply. So if you do have someone who is doing construction, I couldn't quite hear the audio cut out there, but whatever drum, if you're paving, for example, that would be permitted, with the understanding that you're not allowed to pave at 3 a.m. in the morning unless it's an emergency.
is there a reason why is more strict at 8 to 8 versus 7 to 10 or 10 to 7?
That was actually one of the outstanding questions I had for you guys. This is the way that the model New Jersey ordinance had themselves structured. And these two pieces actually conflict with another one of the exemptions that we put in here. Under the exemptions 308 item L, we in previous discussions had discussed fully exempting the operation of lawn care and other household maintenance equipment items and tools. I believe it was Debbie that brought up the good point that, in the summer, like you had said, I think it was Bob that had mentioned the roof, you want to start early so you're not in the heat of the day. And just like we'd want a construction company to maybe be able to take advantage of that, it would be good to have some leeway for people who want to mow their lawns at 6 o'clock before it gets 100 degrees out to be able to do so without running afoul of an ordinance. Obviously, they're important things to discuss, but hopefully, unless you have two neighbors that are fighting, this is not going to be the meat of this ordinance per se.
Not an issue. It's not an issue without someone.
Thank God I've never seen that in my office.
So I have another question. Or I guess a concern. There are so many different hours and for uses.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be so complicated that except for the employee enforcement officer, no one's gonna know what they're allowed to do or not.
And that's a
would-
great point, Michael. One of the things that I had actually suggested was maybe if we do have any exemptions, we make them all uniform. So it's, hey, here are the exemptions, and they're all 8 to 8 or something like that, or we just keep everything 10 to 7.
Probably 7 AM to 10
Well,
PM.
right now, most of them are 7 to 10. Everything, the standard is 7 to 10.
Right.
7 AM to 10 PM, you can do things.
Except weekends, then 8 o'clock.
And then it's a change on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So only the things we really think need to be different, should be different, otherwise no one's gonna understand.
What would that be then?
Uh,
All right, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not here about, this excavating business or power tools and stuff like that. That's not what's bothering us.
Correct.
It's the thing that the guy is running an illegal business, charging money, disrupting our neighborhood because he's in an R1 zone. He says no, the township told us yes. So that's why we don't feel that he should be right there in our neighborhood. Because to us, it is a nuisance. Like I said, if you had to live there every single day and listen to this constantly all day long, I'd rather hear somebody's radio playing all day than listening to that noise.
Sure, and believe me, I understand, because, and part of the process here of running it through the planning commission and the various township employees who've been working on this as it goes to the supervisors is to flesh this out so you do not accidentally cause a problem for somebody who's taking their trucks out of their garage and going to their job, taking their, they're paying their excavator. Yes, you don't wanna accidentally do that.
No.
And that's why this is part of the legislative process, and then it's up to the supervisors. Yeah, Christine.
Christine Carroll. Just a bit of information for all of you. They're expanding. They're cutting in single track for hair scrambles. And so, you know that? Okay, I don't
You
know.
see it over there with that great big
So-
machine, they're knocking everything down.
Yes, yeah, they're putting quite a bit of trail in, on a property that size.
Mountain Manor.
Yeah, yeah, where they're.
Where the
upgrading the
warehouse
cross
was gonna
section.
go, over near there, now
Yeah,
they're over there.
they're expanding, so just.
when is
thought you might
the,
want to know that.
when is the, one day before the hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
What's the date?
December 5th.
December 5th. And what, just for everyone, they come before the zoning hearing board, the zoning hearing board says, no, you're not exempt, you're a
Not allowed.
business operating.
Yeah.
What happens then?
Yeah, we file with the court,
Then you file with court downstairs.
correct, but we cannot do so until they affirm the zoning hearing board, or the zoning officer's decision.
They will
No,
fight
no,
it.
not downstairs.
They'll take it to
Appeal is
court.
the common
The
pleas.
appeal is to the
Common-
Court of Common Pleas.
No, but what I'm saying, so he was saying the appeal was from the ZO's decision, that goes downstairs. If that is appealed, beyond the zoning hearing board.
Appeal, the ZO's decision is before the zoning.
Zoning hearing board.
That's what I was saying, and then you.
It doesn't go to the district court.
No, but what I'm saying is then we file in court, like it's not just a uniform, like to actually get. an injunction.
If they don't appeal to common pleas. If they
Yes.
accept the zoning board's decision and don't appeal, I don't know if that will happen,
I
but,
think you're right, but I was just trying to distinguish
Right,
the differences.
and I'm sure the residents don't want to hear this, but please get an attorney. To
Now-
go to that hearing and present your case. If you're gonna just rely upon yourselves going there, terrific, and God love you, but I'd hire a lawyer. To make sure that you have a lawyer going to that hearing
to present your case.
I think what the supervisors are trying to say, that they've done what they can and they have to wait, but they certainly understand the situation.
All right,
Just to underscore what they're doing. Hare scrambles attract hundreds, it's a motorcycle race.
Okay.
A through the wood motorcycle race. They attract hundreds of participants, just so you know.
okay.
So,
All right, let me ask this. Do we need to, do you want to put this back through a second revision on this, guys, or do you want to? I mean, I think we've kind of fleshed it all
I
out
think
here.
we should make a recommendation to the supervisors that the spirit of the ordinance is intact and it just needs a few massages. Let the supervisors and Julia do it, because there's a couple things that need to be massaged, but the spirit of it is where we want to be.
Okay, I mean, we can make a recommendation. I don't think, it does not have to be a motion, because there's no plan to act on in front of us per se, when you're talking
Yeah,
about
but I
this.
think they want to move quickly.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we don't have to make it, it just has to, it just has to have, this just has to happen. I don't have to make any motion. If you want, we can make a recommendation for sure. But I don't think it formally has to be a motion in that sense, because it's.
Move to recommend.
Okay, it's everybody.
No?
Well, when it came move to recommend this, there's tons of mistakes in it still that need to be fixed.
Understood, that's why
I think what Dave's saying is, you know, I'll motion to recommend that the spirit of this and this conversation, we move forward with the supervisors as soon as possible.
Right, and let them tweak it out.
With the
There's no gaping holes in it, it's just,
And with the incorporated changes or
yeah, the things we
suggestions.
discussed.
Yeah, suggestions.
Well, there is one of the things, I said this on an email, or I do think that it should be 75, not 65 before 10. I'm fine with 55 after 10, which is in keeping with, it keeps with liquor control. I think 65 is not as loud as we all think.
Well, I think that, just to jump in for a second, I think anything that deals with LCD stuff, we should tie it to that standard, rather than spell it out that way, it changes if that ever changes. Everything else.
But you guys could do that. You guys could put that in the
Yes.
final version.
I don't think you should go to 75, I think you should stay at 65. Because 75 doubles the sound level, it's too loud, and that's gonna still keep the complaints that they have that it's too loud.
It's only the property line of the business.
Right.
The irritants.
Well, it's been a
right.
problem, that they changed
All right.
it to 75, and it's been a problem with the liquor control board, and they're very unhappy about it, and they have been saying it's way too loud, 75 is way too loud.
Who's saying that? The
The liquor
PLCB?
control board, yeah, they're very unhappy with this law at 7, which I am also, but.
All right.
If you're gonna make any kind of change, it should not be universal to the table, that everybody can be at 75,
No.
that's gonna be a real problem.
Okay.
If it was something specific for
Like bars.
outdoor music,
Yeah.
maybe, but I say keep it where it is.
Can I say something about, ask about enforcement, because you were talking about that? I mean, I wonder what the role of the state police is in enforcement, because we're under the state police, and I have pulled for noise.
For which, for your
Situations, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know, but I can tell you this, it won't fall under the township, that's,
So the state police will not enforce.
I don't know if the state.
And we don't have an ordinance in Smithfield.
Well, I don't know if it
Because we got so nuts one weekend. My husband said, we're calling the police. I said, we have no ordinance. They will not do anything. We have
It's-
no ordinance in Smithfield
well, I
for
think
the
they,
noise. That's why we need.
well, they will come out under certain situations, I guess if they're not busy or whatever, if you call them. But consistently, no, I mean, I have called them at times and they'll say they'll come out, and sometimes they'll say, no, we're not coming out. So, I don't know, I did call the Attorney General's office, because the state police, I understand, are under the Attorney General's, they're under their authority. And I talked to someone there, and he said that, he really didn't respond if they would, he didn't really tell me if they would respond to a noise complaint, but he said, well, that's under the local police. I said, well, we don't have a local police. And he said, I guess it's up to their discretion, but he said, you can file a complaint with the Attorney General's office if you want to. Like if you call the state police and they will come out, we could file a complaint.
Has there been discussions with the owner of the facility?
Yes,
Yeah, and he or she's not cooperating.
well, he was pretty good last year, but,
It's, I mean, I
and
would
he stopped by
certainly start
10
there.
o'clock last year, but then this year, he said he would stop by 10 last year, which he did. But then this year, he just broke the rules and then, you know, loud, sometimes real loud, sometimes not that loud, and it's off and on and.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We have one more item on, and we'll move on. There's one other thing, I don't know, do we have anything?
Well, I made a motion to,
Yeah, we didn't do anything with that.
Okay, we don't need to make a motion.
I know we don't, but I did make one, okay. So it's
I
second.
thought it was a good one.
Okay,
I'll say second.
so who seconded it?
What was the motion?
Oh, well, it was pretty much the same as yours.
Dave, basically. What was the motion?
Just that the board of supervisors, I mean, it's just so it's formally there. We take this up with the
In
intention,
the spirit in
with the
which.
spirit in which we have discussed this evening, it's sort of
Okay,
not a
second.
great
Second.
decision, but.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't see any problem with it. All right. Now. You're welcome. Oh, this is this one, resident, last one on our list. Do we think
I can give you that quick and dirty in about a minute.
Yeah, that's great, because I didn't realize this was even in here, yes, go hit me.
Under when the economic development ordinance was enacted, it said that a rehabilitation facility is now allowed in that zone as a permitted use. However, taking the drug and alcohol facility out of R1 never occurred. So it is still there. And now that's why we have Healthy Minds knocking on our door, because that was never changed. So this ordinance changes it. It takes a rehabilitation facility, which is a redefined ordinance that has all kinds of things in that definition, out of R1, keep it in ED, but now it's in there as a conditional use.
Okay.
Make a motion, we recommend approval.
No, I would certainly second that. Any discussion, everybody?
We
No?
all know that.
We all know what the problem is.
We also all know this won't affect the current applicant.
We know, yeah, no, I know you can't do that.
Right.
It's next post facto law.
There is-
Grandfather.
If I'm not mistaken, there is another applicant.
Sorry.
That's on the table.
I'm ruined.
I don't know if another applicant.
No, you're talking about Healthy Minds.
That was last one.
Yeah, last month.
That's done. It won't affect this.
No, it can't affect
Those
us.
first two are, yeah.
Yeah, or the other.
That's
one.
why when Supervisor Pride asked me why, I thought that the approval for water gap was site specific. Yeah, when the economic development ordinance was enacted, it would have taken it out of R1, but it never did. It continued to keep it there.
We pointed that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it got missed, but it got missed.
I would respectfully say, Ron, when you explained site specific like 5,000 times, everyone understood it was that site.
Well, had we removed it out of R1? Yes.
But we wanted it. site
Only
specific,
that
so you
site.
did not do that, is what I'm saying.
We have a motion on, approved. A motion approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is. Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
there's a question in the audience.
Yep.
Are we
I
allowed?
didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see your hand, Chris.
I'm pretty new to this whole landscape, so I don't know if I'm asking the questions in the appropriate spot, so bear with me. You just voted on a proposed ordinance, right? And is there supposed to be public comment on that
At their meeting.
at their meeting, not at your meeting?
Yes, because our actions are advisory, but the actual legislative action happens at the supervisor.
He could have taken comment.
But as our attorney, our solicitor just said to you, by way of advice, if you are going to anticipate litigating against the nuisance that you perceive and that you obviously have good right, a good reason to, if you're gonna do that, get a lawyer. Because you may wind up down at the at the district judge, and then bounced out to the Court of Common Pleas. And if you do, then all that stuff starts to, you know,
We're getting some-
discovery, and because this, you say this guy's gonna fight it.
Are you talking about this one we just did, the?
I'm talking about the Healthy Minds, but
the-
that's
No,
not.
not the healthy man, I'm talking
That's
about,
what she was talking.
She was talking about the healthy mind.
I'm sorry. I was moving it back in time to.
Yeah.
The noise,
The noise violations, the
Yes.
the bikes.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I'm curious, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Did you have something specific feedback you had on this?
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's the
It's
reason I'm
basically
hoping
just saying
to
you
look
can-
at it before it was.
It's basically just saying you can only have it in an economic development zone, you cannot have it in the residential.
Right.
Rehab place.
And you have, by law, you have to be able to have someone.
Understood, right, yeah, Robert.
Is medical facility taken out too then, or is that?
The
That's just for
definition,
rehab.
definition of a rehab facility is basically
It's not in
a
there.
licensed establishment, which is a combination of temporary housing, medically supervised subacute care, personal supportive services, and counseling
Right.
for individuals of all ages and 24-hour supervision, whose primary purpose is rehabilitation of persons for drug, alcohol, substance abuse, or mental health issues.
Right.
Such services may include, among other things, medical care by physicians or physician or nurse assistants, prescribing medication, skilled or unskilled nursing care, drug, alcohol, substance abuse rehabilitation, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, counseling, assistance to emotionally and mentally disturbed persons, and halfway houses for people that are on parole or juveniles. And this definition also includes what has been customarily termed a residential drug, alcohol, and substance abuse facility. So that's how it's defined. It's not defined as a hospital or anything
Boy,
like
that's
that.
a really good.
Well, what I didn't want to do was, make the definition so narrow that, we can still do it in R1.
Yeah.
That I think is pretty broad, might even be too broad, I don't know, but we'll do it.
Julia?
Oh, we had to see it, Julia?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to actually apologize to Christine. At the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday, we said that we would have this up on the website. I have been on the road since about 10:30 this morning. So I apologize, Christine. I did not get it up on the website. I will be back in the office on Tuesday, and it is my highest priority to get that up and running. So check, let's say end of day by Tuesday, the draft ordinance will be up on the website for you.
Julie, I didn't even get it out till 1 o'clock today, so don't worry.
No apologies necessary.
All right.
It wouldn't have made any difference, so all good. Thank you though.
Before we adjourn, because I think we have a motion to adjourn, but we didn't vote on it yet. But before we adjourn, congratulations.
Thank you. Supervisor elect.
I know you guys, we have one more meeting, right? One more. Okay.
Have vacancies on the planning
And happy Thanksgiving to everyone too.
One more quick,
One more.
I'm just about to vote.
Oh, cool.
All right, go ahead.
Is the planning commit, at what point does the comprehensive plan? Who do I talk to about that first? You or them?
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Michael, I. As always.